They forced her to marry a human, so she challenged him to a fight. The warrior princess and the human prisoner. The sky above the alien arena was red and full of dust. Thousands of alien warriors stood in silence. The drums had stopped. Only one sound remained: the slow steps of a chained human. Eli walked forward barefoot on the hot black stone. His clothes were torn, blood dried on his face. His hands were tied behind his back, but he did not look afraid. Across from him stood Princess Jara, the undefeated warrior of the Itari race. She was taller than any man. Her armor made from dragon scale steel. Her eyes were cold. Her sword was long and sharp, glowing blue with alien energy. Jira raised her hand, and the guard stopped. "This is the human your council wants me to marry?" she asked loudly, her voice full of anger. "He is weak. He is nothing." The crowd laughed. Some even threw stones near Ella's feet, but he didn't flinch. "I don't want your pity," Eli said calmly. "I didn't ask to marry you. I came to stop a war." Jared narrowed her eyes. "You speak like a soldier, but you are not. Why do you carry yourself like you matter?" "Human," Eli met her gaze, "because if I don't, your world will burn, and mine too." Gasps rose from the crowd. No one had ever spoken to Jara like that. The old high priest stepped forward. "For peace between Earth and it, the human must marry Princess Jara. That is the treaty. That is the law." Jara pulled out her sword. The blade hummed like thunder. "I will not marry a man who cannot defeat me," she shouted. "If you want me human, you must fight for me. Win, and I will obey. Lose, and your blood will stain my blade." Eli nodded. "Untie me." Then the guards looked at each other nervously. One stepped forward and cut the ropes from Ella's hands. He rolled his shoulders slowly. His arms were thin but strong. His skin was covered in bruises and scars. The crowd went silent again. Jira raised her sword. Eli raised his fists. Someone laughed. "He has no weapon." Jira didn't laugh. Her face turned serious. "Something about this human. He wasn't afraid." "Begin," shouted the high priest. Jira rushed forward. Her sword flashed like lightning. The first strike came fast, aiming at Ella's neck, but he ducked. He rolled to the side and jumped back. Another slash, this time low. Eli jumped over it. The crowd gasped. Jira's eyes widened just a little. No one had dodged her first two strikes before. "You move well," she said. "Thanks," Eli replied, breathing hard. "You hit fast." Jard growled and attacked again. Her strikes faster and harder. Now Eli blocked one with his arm. The blade cut his skin. Blood flowed, but he kept moving. She spun and kicked him. He flew back and hit the ground hard. The crowd cheered. Eli coughed and looked up. Jira stood over him, sword pointed at his chest. "Any last words, human?" she asked. Eli smiled. Blood on his teeth. "Yeah," he said. This. He grabbed a handful of dirt and threw it in her eyes. Jira stepped back, blinded for a moment. Eli jumped to his feet and tackled her. They fell to the ground, rolling in dust. Jira was strong. She pushed him off and punched his face, but Eli held onto her arm and twisted it, making her drop the sword. They both stood up again, now unarmed. Jar stared at him. "You're not a soldier," she said. "I'm not," Eli answered, "but I survive." Jar's lip bled. She touched it with surprise. No one had made her bleed in years. The crowd went silent again. The high priest stepped forward. "Should we stop this?" Princess Jara held up her hand. "No." She looked at Eli for the first time. "I see a human who fights with more than just muscles. You fight with your mind." Eli nodded. "That's all we have on Earth. No giant swords, no glowing eyes, just our will." Jira smiled. "Just a little. This battle isn't over," she said. "Tomorrow we fight again. I want to see if your will can survive the fire." Then she turned and walked away, leaving Eli standing in the dust. The crowd whispered, confused. The human had not won, but he had not lost either. For the first time in Viteri history, a human had earned the warrior princess's respect, and the war had just begun. He blocked her blade, and she smiled. For the first time, the sun rose above the alien mountains, casting golden light over the stone arena. Wind howled across the open field. The banners of war moved slowly, heavy with dust. Every Warrior in the capital gathered again, not to celebrate but to understand why. Was the human still alive? No one had ever faced Princess Jara and lived to fight again, yet there he stood, Eli, the human prisoner, bandaged, bruised, but standing tall. Jairus stood opposite him, once more, armor glinting in the morning light, but something was different today. Her stance wasn't full of rage, her eyes were sharper, more focused, like she wasn't just ready to kill, she was ready to learn. The high priest raised his staff. The second challenge begins. Until surrender or until blood speaks the truth. The crowd leaned forward. Silence. Jara moved first, fast like wind. Her sword flashed again, but this time Eli raised his arms and blocked it. Metal met bone. Pain shot through Ella's arms, but he stayed on his feet. He didn't fall. Jara's sword bounced off, leaving a long bruise, but she stepped back in shock. You blocked it, she whispered, half to herself. Eli was breathing hard, eyes locked on her. You showed me how you strike yesterday. I studied it. You studied me. Her voice was almost amused. Eli grinned, even through the pain. Back on Earth, I worked in a factory. No armor, no swords, just people trying to take your food, your job, your life. You learn fast or you don't eat. Zara tilted her head. You learn by surviving. Exactly, he said. And today I survive again. This time Eli moved first. He stepped forward, fists ready. He didn't have a sword, but he fought like a street survivor. Low punches, fast footwork, ducking beneath her strikes. Jara blocked easily at first, but soon she had to focus. She was a warrior trained in royal combat, but this human, he was chaos. He didn't follow any style. He was unrefined, wild and dangerous. Jira's lip bullet again, the second time in 2 days. The crowd noticed. Whispers filled the air. Is she losing? No, she's testing him, but he's a human. Zara heard none of it. For the first time in years, her heart beat faster. She felt alive. The human dodged another sword swing and kicked the side of her leg, not hard, but enough to throw her balance. Jar spun and elbowed him. The back. Eli fell, coughed, rolled, and got up again. I thought you'd stay down, she said, sword pointed. I thought you'd smile by now, he replied. Jira paused, and then she did a small smile, faint but real. You amuse me, human, and you terrify me, princess. They circled each other again. This time it wasn't rage, it was respect. The fight continued, slower, more like a dance now, each testing the other, learning, growing. Then, without warning, Jara lowered her sword. The crowd gasped. Eli froze. What are you doing? He asked. Zara stepped closer. I've had enough of blades today. You showed me something more dangerous. What? She looked him in the eye. You silenced. Jira turned to the high priest. The fight ends here for today. The crowd shouted in confusion. Some booed, some cheered. Jira raised her hand. I decide my tests. This human has not won, but he has not lost, and tomorrow we continue. Eli stood still, breathing like a broken engine. Every muscle in his body hurt. Blood ran from his forehead. Jira walked up to him. You should be dead, she said. I get that a lot, he replied. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she handed him something, a water flask. He took it, surprised. Jira leaned in, her voice low. Tonight, rest. Tomorrow I won't go easy. Were you going easy today? She smiled again, a little. Then she turned and left the arena. The crowd watched in silence. Something had changed. Later that night, Eli sat inside a tent, bones aching. A medic wrapped his ribs while 2 guards stood at the entrance. The flap opened. Jira entered without armor. She wore a simple tunic, and her hair was unbraided. The guards looked nervous. Princess, leave us, she said. They obeyed. Eli sat up slowly. You're here to finish the fight? No, she said. I'm here to understand you. He raised an eyebrow. Now yes, because for the first time I don't know how to win. You fight like someone who lost everything, but you don't stop. Eli nodded. I didn't come here for you. I came because my planet's leaders begged me, said if I could survive your trial we have peace. I didn't believe it. Still, don't you think this is a trick? I think power always lies, but I believe in people, in you somehow. Jira sat across from him. When I was 6, she said, they made me kill my first enemy, a rebel boy. He was crying. I hated it. Eli looked at her. I'm sorry. No need, she said. That day I learned this world has no space for mercy, only strength, so I became strong. Eli nodded. But you smile today, that means there's still something human inside you. Zora laughed softly. I'm not human. Could have fooled me. They sat in silence for a moment, then Jura stood. I'll see you in the arena one last time. Why one last? Because I have a feeling one of us won't walk away tomorrow. And with that she was gone. She gave him one night before the final blow. The stars above the alien sky blinked quietly like they were watching to the air outside. The palace was still, but inside Eli's tent the air felt heavy. Like something big was coming, like a storm made of steel and choice. Eli couldn't sleep. His ribs ached, his back burned, but that wasn't what kept him awake. It was her, Jira, the warrior princess, the enemy, the woman who smiled at him after trying to kill him. He sat up on his sleeping mat, wrapped in a thin alien blanket, his fists still bruised, his knuckles swollen, but his heart, that was worse. It was confused. Why did she smile? Why did she spare him? Why did he want to see her again? Before he could chase more questions, the flap of the tent opened, and there she was, wearing no armor, no sword, just a long black robe, and her hair tied back, her face calm but not cold, not like before. Eli stared at her. You know where I'm from? People knock. Jiro raised an eyebrow. You are a prisoner human. I don't need permission. Eli smirked. Yet here you are without guards, no sword. That's not how someone visits a prisoner. Jard didn't smile this time. She walked inside and sat on the chair across from him. I came to speak, she said softly, not to fight. Eli leaned forward, surprised why she looked away for a moment, as if choosing her words. Because tomorrow I will face you again, and it might be the last time for you or for me. Eli blinked. You think you'll lose? Jard turned her eyes to him. Sharp, honest. I don't know, she admitted. That's what scares me and excites me. Eli looked down at his hands. I'm not stronger than you. You know, you've trained your whole life. You were born for this. Me, I'm just a guy who got thrown into something bigger than him. Jira tilted her head. That may be true, but sometimes strength isn't about muscle or swords, it's about something else. She stood and walked slowly around the tent, touching the edge of the table where he had drawn a rough map of escape routes. She saw the marks he had carved on the wood, counting the days. 7. You've been here a week, she said, but already everything feels different. Eli stood. Even though it hurt. Jara, are you trying to confuse me before the fight? Get into my head. She turned. No, I'm trying to understand you before I have to destroy you. That stopped him. Her voice hadn't been threatening, it had been sad. Why do you have to destroy me at all? Eli asked. What if you just let the fight end tomorrow without a winner? She shook her head. Because then no one will respect me or you. Our people don't understand peace without pain. They only accept power. Eli looked down again. And if I do win? Jorah's voice softened. Then I am yours. Those words hung in the air like a blade over the neck. I don't want to own you, Eli whispered. I know, she said. That's why I fear you. They sat in silence again. After a while she poured him a drink from the alien flask on the table. He took it without a word. It's not poison, she added, almost smiling. Again, didn't think it was, Eli said. You don't need poison to kill me. Zara took a deep breath. This drink is made from the fire. Fruit grows only on the edge of the volcano lands. We drink it the night before battle. It reminds us that death is close and life is sweeter because of it. Eli took a sip. The drink burned down his throat but left warmth in his chest. Then she did something unexpected. She reached across the table and touched his hand. He froze. Why are you doing this? He asked. Jira didn't let go. Because you make me question everything I was taught. You're weak, but you stand tall. You lose, but you don't fall. You fight like you have nothing, but you carry something heavier than any weapon I've seen. My people, Eli whispered. She nodded. And your heart? They looked at each other for a long time. No one spoke. Then she stood again. The night is short, she said. Rest, human. She turned to leave, then paused. But tomorrow I won't hold back. If you want me, you must take me. With strength I won't obey a man who can't defeat me, not in body, not in spirit. She walked to the tent flap. Before she left, she looked over her shoulder. You made me bleed tomorrow. Let's see if you can make me bow then. She was gone. Eli sat back down. His chest ached, not from pain, from pressure, from the weight of what tomorrow meant. Not just survival, not just war, but something more dangerous than Mo loved. The final blow, or so they thought. The sky was black before dawn, the kind of black that didn't feel empty but heavy, like it knew something was about to happen, something that could not be undone. The arena was silent. Thousands of Itari warriors gathered. Even the generals came, even the elders, even the shadows. Today was not an ordinary fight, it was a final one. Ali stood in the center, his chest wrapped in cloth, his hands still marked with bruises from the last two battles. He looked smaller than the other warriors. He had no sword, no armor, just courage. Across from him, she stood Princess Jura, clad in red armor, this time the color of final judgment. Her face was painted with ancient war marks. Her sword glowed brighter than ever, and her eyes were not cold anymore. They were clear, as if she had already made peace with whatever would happen next. The high priest raised both arms. This is the third and final trial, the last test of strength, the last test of heart. He looked at both of them today. One shall fall, one shall rise, and a new bond between worlds shall be born. Jara stepped forward. Human, she said, this is the moment you prove who you are, not just to me, but to everyone watching. Do you understand? Eli nodded. Yes, I understand. I don't want to kill you. Jara smiled, sad but proud, and that's why you may survive. She rushed forward. The crowd held its breath. The battle began, the battle of equals. Jara swung fast, faster than ever. She didn't hold back. Each strike came like thunder, each step like a storm. Eli dodged, blocked, rolled. He had no weapon, but he had speed and heart. The crowd couldn't look away. He caught her wrist mid-swing. She kicked his knee. He dropped to the ground, then swept her feet. She fell but rolled up like wind. She slashed again, a cut across his shoulder. Blood sprayed. He gritted his teeth and kept going. Zara felt something burn in her chest. She had never fought like this before, not against a human, not against anyone. Ali ducked under her blade and pushed forward, grabbing her waist and lifting her off the ground. He slammed her down. Gasps filled the air. Jira coughed, rolled, and stood, her sword gone, now lost in the dust. They stood face to face, breathing, bleeding, alive. Then they both moved at the same time. No weapons, just fists, elbows, knees, a blur of motion. Eli hit her jaw, she knee his ribs. He elbowed her side. She spun and kicked his chest. They fell together. The ground shook, one still, one standing. Dust covered everything. For a few seconds there was silence, then a soft breeze cleared the view. One body was moving, the other was not. The crowd leaned forward. Jira was on one knee, her face bruised, lip bleeding, eyes wide with surprise. Eli was lying still, blood pulled under him. A medic ran toward him, then another, and another. Zara tried to stand, but her leg gave out. The high priest stepped forward. Stop the fight. The human is, no, Jira shouted. Her voice cracked. Not yet. She limped toward him. She dropped to her knees beside him and touched his face. Ellie, she whispered, wake up. Nothing. She shook him. I said, wake up. Still nothing. The crowd began to murmur, he's dead, he lost. Jorah's hand trembled, but then Eli coughed. The sound was soft, broken, but real. His eyes opened. Barely. You hit hard, he whispered. Jara stared, then she did something no one expected. She laughed, and it wasn't cruel, it was pure. You're alive, she said. Barely, he replied, but alive. Jira looked up at the sky, breathing deeply. Then she stood, her legs shook, her body screamed with pain, but she raised her hand high. I yield. The arena fell silent, even the wind stopped. The high priest stepped back. What? I yield, she said again. I will not strike him. I will not break him, because he cannot be broken. The crowd began to shout. Impossible, he didn't win. This is not our way. Ya turned to face them all. Then our way must change. This human fought me with nothing but his body and heart, and I could not defeat him, you saw it, you felt it, I would rather follow him into battle than 10 of our generals. Then she knelt beside Eli again. I swore I'd only obey the one who could beat me, she said, but I was wrong. I will obey the one who made me feel again, who made me fight not to win, but to understand. She looked at him, and that person is you. Eli blinked slowly. Does that mean I get to sleep now? Jairus smiled through tears. Yes, she said, rest, warrior, you've earned it. The turning point that day, the arena changed, not because of victory, but because of choice. A warrior princess chose to bow not to power, but to hope. Jairus carried Eli out of the arena in her arms. The crowd didn't cheer, they watched in silence. Something deep had shifted, the legend had begun, but this was not the end, because in the shadows of the capital others were watching. Generals, traitors, enemies who wanted war, and they would not allow peace to come so easily. Not without a new fight, a darker one that would test both their hearts and the love that had only just begun. Her enemies refused the marriage, so he challenged them all. Peace should have followed victory, but peace is not welcome in a world where power is worshipped more than truth. The sun rose over the silver towers of Yter Prime. The city buzzed with whispers. Servants, soldiers, and spies all repeated the same story. The human didn't die. She knelt before him. The warrior princess yielded. But not everyone celebrated. Deep inside the war hall, behind a round table carved from bone and fireglass, the council of generals gathered. 7 of the strongest white terry leaders, 7 who had trained. Jura raised her, controlled her, and now they were furious. General CQ, the oldest and most feared, slammed his clawed hand on the table. She bows to a weak-blooded off-worlder and calls him warrior. General Velgatal and Snackied hissed, she speaks of love, of honor, foolish, dangerous. She will marry him. Another general growled, and her bloodline will be diluted. The throne will fall. General Cutter stood slowly, his voice cold and sharp. Then we stopped the wedding. We remove the human and remind her who truly rules this world. Meanwhile, in the royal healing chamber, Eli lay on a soft bed made of cloud silk and crystal foam. His wounds were healing, but his spirit felt uneasy. Jira sat beside him, dressed in soft robes, her armor left behind. She watched over him like a silent flame. You're quiet, Eli said. I'm thinking, she replied. About what? She sighed. About how the world hates what it doesn't understand. Eli nodded slowly. They won't let this happen, will they? No, she whispered. They won't. A guard rushed in. Princess Council demands your presence. They say it cannot wait. Jera stood at once. Stay here, she told Eli. No matter what happens, stay. Eli grabbed her hand. You don't have to face them alone. Jira looked at him. Yes, I do, but if they ask for your blood, don't. Then she walked away. The confrontation inside the war hall. Jera stood tall before the 7 generals. No sword, no crown, just truth in her voice. You summon me, she said coldly. Cutter sneered. You shamed us. Velia hissed. You threw away power for human. Jar's jaw tightened. I chose someone who stood against me without fear, who fought with his hands and heart, not with cruelty. Keter slammed his staff. You will not marry him. Jira stepped forward. You do not decide that the gods watched our trial. He earned my respect, my oath. Then we break that oath, another general said, and we break him. Cat raised his arm. Bring the human here. Let him face judgment. The challenge. Eli entered. Moments later, still limping but standing tall, his eyes scanned the rooms. Generals, all full of hate. Couture stepped forward. You are not welcome here. Human, you bring weakness, emotion, and corruption. Eli didn't flinch. I bring change. You're just afraid of it. You speak boldly, Cotter said, but you are nothing here. Jara moved toward Eli, ready to defend him, but Eli raised a hand. He looked at Carter and said, if you think I'm nothing, then fight me. The room fell silent. Carter narrowed his eyes. You challenge me? Eli nodded. Not to the death, not with swords, not with pain, but with truth. Cutter laughed. Truth is weakness? No, Eli said. Truth is what survives. He turned to the other Generals, let me prove myself one by one. No weapons, no guards, just me and your fear. Velja stepped forward, her voice like poison, and if you fail then I walk away. Eli said, and you win. Jorah grabbed his arm. What are you doing? Eli looked at her. What you did for me, now I do for you. The trials begin. They cleared the war hall floor. Each general stepped forward one at a time. No swords, just strength, but not physical, mental, emotional, truthful. Each general tried to break Eli with fear, with old stories, with threats from history. They showed him visions of wars, of dead humans, of crushed planets, and still he stood. He answered there. Darkness with hope, with love, with the truth of earth, a place where people fall and rise again, where hearts break but still beat. Keter was the last. He walked up slowly. I killed 10 kings, I burned 7 cities. What makes you worthy of our crown? Eli looked into his cold eyes. I didn't come here for your crown, he said. I came to stop the next war, but if I must take the crown to stop it, then I will silence. Jorah's eyes widened. The generals looked at each other for the first time. They had no answer. Quir turned his back. This is not over, he said. Vanished into the shadows, but none dared strike, none dared stop him. A promise made in fire. That night Jorah stood with Eli on the highest tower. Why did you risk yourself like that? She asked. Eli looked at her. Because I've been a fighter my whole life, but only now I fight for someone. Jorah stepped closer. If we go forward, we go against everything, every rule, every bloodline. Eli took her hand. Then let's write a new one. They stood under the stars, a human and a warrior princess, enemies by birth, allies by choice, and in the shadows their enemies sharpened blades. In silence she fought beside him against her own blood. The palace once stood proud like a mountain, untouched, unshaken, but on this day its halls echoed with whispers of war, not with aliens, not with humans, but from within, from bloodlines ready to turn on their own. The stars had not yet faded when the call came. A young royal guard, one loyal to Jorah, rushed into her chamber. Princess, he whispered urgently, the generals have moved their banners, the black flags have risen. Jorah's eyes narrowed. Rebellion. The guard nodded. They've taken the eastern tower, and your father is among them. A father's betrayal. Jorah stood frozen. Her father, Lord Zorel, had not shown himself in weeks. Once the head of the royal house, he had trained her with fire and fury. Now he stood with the traitors. Why? She whispered. The guard's voice was tight. He said, you are no daughter of his. Not after kneeling to a human. The words cut deeper than any blade. Eli stepped in from behind. He had heard everything. You don't have to face this alone, he said quietly. Jorah shook her head. I do. It is my blood that has turned against me. It must be my sword that answers. Eli walked to her. Then let me stand beside your sword. Their eyes met. No more speeches, no more games, only choice, only love. The fall of the East Tower. The battle began before dawn. Jorah led her loyalists through the hidden tunnels of the palace. Eli moved beside her, armored in borrowed gear, lighter than hers, but enough to fight. When they emerged, the tower gates were already in flames. Carter's rebels stood on the walls shouting, false princess, traitor of Irie blood. Jorah raised her blade. I am no traitor. I am the future, and the future will not kneel to fear. The gates burst open, and war followed. Battle. Blood swords clashed. Flames rose. Jorah moved like a storm, cutting down generals she once called brothers. Every strike came with a memory. Every defense came with a tear behind the armor. Eli fought by her side, not like a warrior born, but like a man with something to protect. He saved Jorah twice from surprise attacks. She covered him when he slipped. They were no longer just fighters. They were partners in the heart of the tower. Kiter weighted blood covered his armor. Beside him stood Lord Zorel, Jorah's father. She stepped forward slowly. He didn't raise his sword. Instead, he looked into her eyes. You shame me, he said. You were born of it, fire, and now you burn that fire to ash. Zorah lowered her sword slightly. You taught me strength, but you forgot to teach me mercy. Lord Zorro's eyes hardened. Mercy weakens, mercy Kills? No, Jira said. Hate kills, fear kills, and I will not lead with either. Couture snarled enough talk. He charged. Jira met him with steel. Their blades clashed with the sound of thunder. The final family cut while Jira fought Cutter. Eli was left face to face with Zorro the Old. Warlord raised his blade. You should not be here. Human Eli raised his hands. I didn't come to destroy your world. I came to build something with your daughter. Zorro growled. You have taken her from us. Eli stepped closer. No, I reminded her of who she could be. Someone better, someone kinder. Zorro screamed and swung, but Eli didn't back away. He dodged, he blocked. And when Zorro tried to strike again, Eli slipped behind him, grabbing a pole and using it to knock the old man down. I don't want to kill you, Eli said, but if you raise that sword again, I will end this. Zorro stared up at him for the first time. He saw not a weak human, but a warrior. One death, one rise. Carter slammed Jara to the ground, his blade rising for a killing blow, but before it could fall, Ella's spear flew through the air straight into Carter's shoulder. The warlord screamed. Jar rose, and with a roar drove her blade into his chest. He fell. The hall went silent. The rebellion was broken. The generals dropped their weapons. Lord Zorro turned away. Do what you must, he whispered, but Jared didn't strike. She turned her back instead. You are no longer my father, she said softly, but I will not spill more blood than I must. Eli took her hand. Together they walked out through the broken gates, through the smoke, through the silence of a future rewritten the new way. That night Jairus stood before the people, blood on her cloak, ash on her face, but fire in her heart. This is not the end of a war, she said. This is the beginning of something new. No more hatred between our kinds, no more fear of change. She looked at Eli and he stepped forward. I am not we Terry, he said. I am not royal, but I will fight for peace until my last breath, not with power but with love. The crowd stayed quiet, then one voice cheered, then another, then the city roared for the warrior and for the human. He beat her once, now she fights to protect him forever. Peace is a strange thing. It doesn't arrive with trumpets. It comes quietly. It knocks on the door of your heart and waits, but only for a moment. The fires of rebellion had died. Jorah and Eli had stood before the people side by side, warriors of different worlds, now leaders of one cause. But peace is never safe in the deep parts of the galaxy. A message had been sent, a signal, a cry for help, and someone had answered it. Shadows from beyond, they came in the night, ships without flag, soldiers without faces, machines of war that obeyed no ruler, only code. The Syndicate, a powerful empire that fed on weak worlds. Their spies had seen the rebellion, their satellites had watched the human fight the princess, and they saw a chance. Divide the planet, steal the throne, enslave the people. The Syndicate didn't care about honor or oaths or love, they cared about power, and now they had arrived. The invasion, the sky turned black again, not from clouds but from ships, thousands of them. The Itari capital fell into panic. Jorah stood at the tower's edge, her jaw tight, her sword strapped to her back. Eli stood beside her, staring at the sky. We just fixed this, he said quietly. I know, she replied, and now they want to burn it all. Jar nodded. Then we don't let them. A warrior's vow. Jaretta turned to her people, soldiers, children, elders, broken but not defeated. Today, we fight not for thrones, not for bloodlines, but for what we became when we stood beside each other. She raised her sword high, and this time I will not fight for myself, I fight for him. The crowd cheered. Eli looked at her. You don't have to protect me. Jira smiled. I know, but I want to. You protected my soul, let me protect your life. The last battle begins. The Syndicate dropped from the sky like metal insects. Fire rained from their cannons. Buildings cracked. The old city shook. Jira led the charge, her blade carved through machines with grace and fury. Eli fought beside her with a small lightery blade. He moved faster now, stronger than before, no longer just surviving, but defending something he believed in. They'd fought back to back. Blood and sparks flew. Jorah blocked a strike aimed at Eli's head. Eli pulled Her from a collapsing tower they moved like one, but the syndicate had a secret. The betrayer returns from the shadows of a fallen ship. Coder stepped forward. Burned scared alive he had survived and now he had joined the syndicate. They promised me a world, Carter growled one. Where I rule, where you are dust. Jira stepped forward. You are no ruler, you're a coward. Cuter pointed at Eli. This human stole your crown. Jira raised her blade. No, he gave me my soul. Keter screamed and charged. The final duel. Couture was faster now, enhanced with syndicate tech. His arm turned into a blade. His eyes glowed red. Jar fought hard, but even she was pushed back. Eli ran forward. No. She shouted, he's too strong, but Eli didn't stop. He stabbed Carter in the side. Kerr roared and flung him across the hall. Jairus screamed, her rage exploding. She dropped her blade and attacked with bare hands. Every punch was for the past. Every strike was for Eli. Every scream was for the people. Catter finally fell dead. The price. Jara ran to Eli. He was bleeding. He smiled weakly. Did we win? She nodded, tears falling. Yes, but you can't leave me now, not after everything. He reached up and touched her face. I'm not leaving, I'm just resting. He passed out. Jara held him, refusing to let go. A new world. Eli survived barely. The people rebuilt together. Jara and Eli didn't take thrones, they built a council mixed with human and Vittori leaders. They taught peace, they defended freedom, they planted trees where towers fell, and every night under the stars Jirara sat beside Eli on the palace roof. Do you remember when you blocked my sword? She asked once. I remember thinking I'd die. He laughed. She leaned on his shoulder, but instead we lived the final vow. 1 year later they stood before both races, not as rulers but as equals, as partners. Jira took his hand, and this time she didn't challenge him to a fight. She made a vow. You beat me once, but then you healed me forever. Now I swear I will stand beside you. I will guard your life. And I will fight for you. The end.